Good evening. Let me call this chamber to order. Everyone, please rise if you can. Join in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag and nation. Remain standing for a moment. Personal reflection. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Township Clerk, please call roll. Read our statement of adequate notice.
Councilmember Hall.
Here.
Councilman Wendell.
Here.
Councilwoman Winston. Here. Councilwoman Zimbicki.
Here.
Council President McAvoy.
Here.
Also present, Administrator Joseph Criscullo.
Here.
And Township Attorney Anthony Iacoca.
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required under Chapter 231 Public Law 1975 by specifying the time, date, location, and to the extent known, the agenda, by posting a copy on the bulletin board located in the main lobby of the East Brunswick Municipal Building, providing a copy to the Home News Tribune and the Asbury Park Press newspapers, posting a copy on the township's website, and by filing a copy in the office of the township clerk, which will be entered into the minutes.
Thank you. Council, you have before you Resolution 25-114, adopting the meeting minutes from our February 10th, 2025 meeting. Any need for correction or clarification on these minutes?
Motion to adopt.
Second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hall.
Yes.
Councilman Wendell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Winston.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zimbicki.
Yes.
And Council President McAvoy.
Yes. Council, you have before you a resolution of recognition, Resolution 25-115, honoring and accepting the retirement of East Brunswick Policeman Lieutenant Robert Zielinski. May I have a motion? Second.
Second.
I will call roll following the reading of this resolution. Lieutenant? Resolution 25-115, resolution honoring and accepting the retirement of Lieutenant Robert Zielinski. Whereas Lieutenant Robert Zielinski submitted written notification to the Township of East Brunswick that he will retire from the East Brunswick Police Department effective March 1, 2025. And whereas on March 8th, 1999, Lieutenant Zielinski began his career with the Township as a patrol officer. He was later promoted to detective on September 28, 2010, then promoted to sergeant August 22, 2014, and finally promoted to lieutenant on August 1, 2019, a position from which he retires effective March 1, 2025. And whereas throughout his almost 26 years of service to the East Brunswick Police Department, he demonstrated exemplary characteristics to the township through his work ethic, dedication, leadership, team spirit, and enthusiasm for duty. Be it further resolved by the township clerk and the Township of East Brunswick that Lieutenant Zielinski's retirement is hereby accepted with an effective date of March 1, 2025. And be it further resolved by the Township Council, and the Township of East Brunswick that they hereby extend their sincere gratitude, appreciation to Lieutenant Zielinski for over 25 years of dedication and outstanding service to the Township of East Brunswick, and to congratulate him on his well-earned retirement and wish him much happiness, success, and health in years to come. Lieutenant, how about a couple of words?
First of all, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, growing up in this town and serving this town for 26 years. The men and women of this agency, second to none. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Council President, if I may,
Yes, please.
just want to thank Rob. For those who don't know, Rob is not only a servant to the town through the police department, but he's been on the fire department for many, many, many years. And so these 25 years are extended far more through his service through the volunteer fire department. And he's owed a sincere debt of gratitude to this town.
Councilman Wendell, how about all the Thanksgivings that were missed and the family celebrations and the retirements?
Certainly.
I mean, the First Holy Communions that were missed because of the service to our community. That's something that all of the men and women of our department are just so ingrained and used to, but we're going to miss you.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your contributions.
Please.
Good evening. I want to congratulate Rob on a well-earned and well-deserved retirement. Just like the councilman said, Rob is a staple of this community. There's actually farmland named after him. Rob has been the staple of East Brunswick. We often said, I heard someone once say that when you cut a person, sometimes they bleed green, the green and white of East Brunswick. That's Rob Zielinski. It's a very successful career when you get to retire at any rank, but to rise to the level of lieutenant. He also commanded our SWAT team. Very active, very hard to replace, but luckily we have an incredible staff here where we're going to move on and we're going to protect him and his family, and we welcome him back to his family, and he will always remain part of our family. So thank you.
You're just making sure you're leaving.
Is it okay?
We're going to do the police in a separate photo. Okay, you're good? Council President, would you mind coming on? Yeah. And how's that? Squad, will you join us? We all squeeze in somebody? Excellent, thank you. Lady. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. Yeah, my pleasure. I'll see you around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Congratulations.
These chairs. What happened?
Yeah.
And Mrs. Zelinski, don't feel obligated to stay the duration of the meeting. Unless you want to listen, a lesson in civics, that's a different story, but feel free to exit at any time.
She has a lot to get off her chest.
Okay. So with everything was said there, have a roll call on the resolution 25-115, honoring and accepting the retirement of Lieutenant Robert Zielinski. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hall,
Yes.
Councilman Wendell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Winston,
Yes.
Councilwoman Zambicki,
Yes.
and Council President McAvoy.
Yes. Council, we have one ordinance for a second reading, ordinance 2504. Will the clerk please read?
An ordinance of the Township of East Brunswick, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 51, Armed Security Officers of the Township Code to comply with the Security Officer Registration Act, SORA, NJSA 45:19A-1 et sec.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Is there anyone from the public wishing to comment on this this particular ordinance and just this ordinance? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
Councilman Wendell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Winston?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zimbicki?
Yes.
And Council President McAvoy.
Yes. And we can move on to our reports section. Mr. Crisculo, our business administrator.
Yes, I just have one thing this evening. I'd like to introduce to the community and the council a new addition to the administration team, Greg Tindoff. Greg, would you meet me at the counter here? Greg is going to be part of our marketing team for the township, and I think it's important that people know his face, who he is, because he's going to start getting out into the community, marketing things like the parking deck, Crystal Springs, everything that we're offering to make sure the public and the community knows what's going on in a community, but more in a more realistic way than the standard way that we were doing it with Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. He's going to look for us to have a wider reach to the community and work with various departments and look at their individual needs. So I'd like to welcome Greg to the team. He started last Tuesday, starting to get acclimated. Yes, he did his cyber training. I made him do it, and he had to do his defensive driving class. So I just wanted to introduce him to you and members of the community that are watching at home. You'll see him around town and getting started. It's going to be a big asset when we open in the hockey rink to market that and make sure that we fill that place up and have a good time. I don't know if Greg's got any comments, or I think we're between him going home at this part and having dinner with his family. So I just invite Greg to make a comment if you wish. Sure. If not, he could take off.
Sure.
Hello, everybody. Grew up here in East Brunswick and graduated back in 1990. It's a great opportunity to be here and be a part of East Brunswick, the town that I grew up in. I don't live too far from here. And seems like everybody seems to be really hospitable, really nice and kind. And I'm excited to do some really neat things here and to promote East Brunswick the proper way. And that's what I do best. And I'm pretty excited to take on this new challenge. It's a new journey in my life, and I'm excited for it. So we'll see. It's very nice to meet each and every one of you tonight. Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome to the team.
Right, good luck.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
That's all I have for this evening, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Crisculo. Our township attorney, Mr. Iacono.
There's nothing to report at this time, Council President.
Our township clerk, Ms. Lawful.
And nothing to report.
Council or committee reports,
Just
Yes,
one real quick.
please.
Rec and Parks Board, next Monday, the registration opens online for summer camp, for Crystal Springs, for all the programming. So please keep that in mind. And also, we are hiring. So if you're looking for a job, we have positions available. Please go on our website and take a look and apply. That's it. Thank you.
And I'm going to just have a little change of heart here. Instead of waiting till the good of the cause, I'm going to use this time to make some comments if I have things. And what I would like to do is thank our Public Works Department and our Tree Commission Department for the work that they did during the recent storms. We saw a lot of trees down. Immediately that morning, there were 3 in my greater neighborhood. And by the following day, they were taken care of. So, you know, the trees that are 10 feet from the curb is the township's responsibility. And they surely did a great job. And the same thing goes for our water and sewer department with regard to the various breaks and water lines that were broken during that same time period. The amount of work that they did, kudos to them. Congratulatory comment to our most recent Eagle Scout, Luke Zorn. I know Councilwoman Winston was at the ceremony. Would you care to chime in?
It was a wonderful ceremony. I've known, my family has known Luke for a long time. My kids went to school with him, and my husband had the honor of coaching him in basketball for several years. So it was Sorry about that. And it was just a great afternoon, and it's always great to see a community member rise up and take on leadership and be so motivated and committed to being a great human with character. And Luke embodies that, and it was just a great celebration.
Thank you. And with regard to questions anyone might have regarding how federal orders have an effect, if any, on their benefits or their programs, they can contact Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman. Bonnie Watson Coleman's address is 850 Bear Tavern Road, Suite 201, Ewing, New Jersey, or a phone number 609-883-0026. The reason I bring that to your attention at this particular time was, in typical fashion, we get emails and text messages and phone calls, and it was a phone call that had to do with a gentleman's son who possibly could get federal work as a result of who he was and how old he was and the background check. And it was a phone call to Bonnie Watson Coleman's office, and next thing we know, the kid's employed. So people like Bonnie Watson Coleman, who is our representative, are there for that purpose. I will now open the meeting to the public. Township Clerk, will you please read our public comment statement?
The public comment portion of our meeting is to allow the public to bring to the council's attention their concerns or comments. In accordance with NJSA 10:4-12A and the East Brunswick Rules of Council, the council asks the public to limit their comments to 5 minutes or less. At the conclusion of the statements or questions from a member of the public, the council president, at his discretion, may choose to respond or not respond.
Just setting my 5 minutes up. Is there anyone wishing to address Council President? Please.
Nawal Tufel, Tall Oaks Drive, East Brunswick. Mr. McAvoy, you know exactly why I'm here. I have been coming here in almost every meeting since last 2 or 3 months to ask you, or to request you, basically, not ask you, to please consider breaking ties with the sister city Yavne, which is an Israeli city. And the reason is because Israel is committing, or it tried to commit a genocide, killed hundreds and thousands of people, murdered. The war crime list is really long. All you have to do is, again, just search war crimes of Israel, and you will find reputable organizations, newspapers, news agencies, media, explaining all the details of horrific war crimes that country did. So why do we still have a sister city with a city in that country? I would also like to bring something today. It's been 1 year. On February 25th, 2024, Aaron Bushnell. So I don't know if anyone from this township administration is aware of that name, but we are. He was a 25 years old serviceman of the United States Air Force. He died after setting himself on fire outside the front gate of the Embassy of Israel in Washington, D.C. Immediately before the act, which was live streamed on social media, Bushnell said that he was protesting against what people have been experiencing in Palestine at the hands of their colonizers, and declared that he will no longer be complicit in genocide, after which he set himself on fire and died. As he burned, Bushnell repeatedly shouted, "Free Palestine." After he collapsed into the ground, 2 Secret Service officers attempted to extinguish the fire, but of course they couldn't do it, and he could not survive. He was a U.S. serviceman, and he gave his life to bring this issue to light. So it's all out there. And Mr. McAvoy, again, you have the power right now to do the right thing. And as a teacher of history and social studies, you know that no country who commits a genocide is ever able to recover from it. So if not now, in few months, in few years, this thing will come to an end. And people will see what Israeli regime did. And it has to end, right? But is East Brunswick Township really waiting for so many years to pass and then do this? Or do when it's the right time? And make it an example that that's how cities should work, or that's how cities should act at the time of genocide. It's still happening. The situation is still horrific. People are still dying. People have no place to go. And it's all because of Israel blocking everything to go. There are more than 1 million people who are at risk of famine. And again, like, I cannot keep myself from not crying if I try to explain it. So I'm sure you understand that. I'm sure. So please do the right thing, think about it, and break the sister city with an Israeli city. Thank you so much.
Anyone else wishing to address Council President? Please.
Joseph Schmidt, Lewis Avenue. Just wanted to mention about, we were talking about different news sources online. There's one that Reverend Seth Caperdale in Highland Park mentioned once, the group, place called Al Jazeera, I think it's called. And he mentioned as an example of something to give what's going on with the current Israeli-Palestinian, Israeli-Gazan conflict, which I wish they would have peace. But I actually went to point out to him, there is, in 2019, the actual place, Al Jazeera, which he was bringing, went and brought a story about the measles back then. And they actually did a hit piece and actually misinformed people about things. There was a reporter named Del Bigtree who worked on a doctor's television show. He was in the interview. He recorded the whole interview, as well as the reporter from Al Jazeera. And you can actually see, if you watch the interview that they did and you listen to the Jazeera piece, that they actually made stuff up in the way they cut it to actually pretend like things were on they weren't. They even have at the end of it, the reporter turned his cameras off and started talking to Del Bigtree about he knows people who have autism from certain vaccines. And yet, on the actual finished piece, he refused to mention that in the finished piece. So when you talk about misinformation, I mean, there are people who get encephalitis, encephalopathy from both measles and the measles vaccine, both strains of the virus, because the vaccine is a viral infection too. It's supposed to be a weakened infection, as opposed to the full-fledged one. But I'm just getting back to the point, that is, for example, they're talking about going and actually look stuff online. That is not a good.
Keep your comments directed at me.
Okay.
Do not direct any attention to any other member sitting in this chamber.
Okay. Sometimes some of the places online are not very reputable. And I wish I knew more about what was going on in there and how it could be peace, but I do also know from my time in Israel that there are people there who specifically just want to kill Jews. There are also Muslim Arabs who are friends with Jews. As I mentioned last town council meeting about Abu Ghush. They live peacefully with Telstone right next door, and they don't seem to have a problem, at least when I was there. And it's not genocide because obviously Abu Ghush is there. They're not attacking Abu Ghush. Has people from Abu Ghush go to the Israeli army. I mean, this whole story is, I don't know everything. I wish I had more information, but it's not being told completely from the side of that, oh, there's a genocide going on, stuff like that. There is a war. There is a lot of sad stuff going on, and I don't know everything, but it's not the story that's being told in that direction. All right.
Anyone else wishing to address the Council President, please? Gentleman in the back.
Mr. President and Council, I just have a few things I'd like to.
Oh, name and address, please, sir.
Tom Ingrasani of Deerfield Road.
Thank you.
Okay, I was reading the other day that our electric rates are gonna be up to 20%, which means about $28 a month come June, I believe. I just like to let you know, people that don't know, that's what's gonna happen. And the other day, I had a guy come over my house, 8 o'clock in the morning, to check my meter for gas inside the house. And he read it outside, wanted to confirm it inside. So everything matches, but I suggest you get a new meter put in. So I called up today, and they scheduled me for March 16th, I believe it is. And he's, in calling the office there, he said, "Do you want your electric meter changed also?" I says, "Yeah, all right, but could you let me know? Because I want to, when they take it off, I want to be there to tighten up the screws, make sure it's tightened, because the aluminum wire oxidizes and it could, eventually cause a fire." So they says, "Your meter was changed already." I says, "It was?" Because when I put a request in, I wanted to be there. And anyway, they said if it wasn't changed, you'd be charged $12 a month if you don't want it changed. So that's something I don't know if anybody knows, but I found that out today myself. And the other thing was to save water in the toilet tanks and everything else. I put up maybe a bottle of water from a 24 ounce or 16 ounce Snapple bottle, put it in the tank. You'll save that much water on a flush. That's pretty good, I think, anyway, because it still works. And one other comment I have is these scams on the phones. You overpaid on your Verizon bill. We owe you $2,700. That's a scam, I believe, because, they're not going to owe me $2,700 in 2 years. Well, I didn't pay that in 2 years. Then they coming out with the car insurance. We owe you car insurance money. And then there's money about the government owes you $2,600 from last year's taxes. To me, all these are scams. And Easy Pass is another one. If you get a notice on Easy Pass that you violated a toll, call this number, and that's how they get you for your account.
On each one of those, Mr. Ingrasini, thank you. Lose my number. Click.
Right. I don't even give it.
Thank
I
you
just
very
wipe
much.
it out now. That's it.
Thank you.
Just so you know, I know people out there know, but that's why I brought it up, okay?
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address Council President? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion. Council, you have one resolution requiring a separate vote, Resolution 24-116. Township Clerk, will you please read?
Resolution requesting approval for authorizing an emergency temporary appropriations in accordance with NJSA 48:4-20.
Mr. Crisculo, a quick comment?
Sure. As you all know, we are still on temporary budget. So every month, we bring to you this emergency so we can pay our bills in the next month. So this temporary appropriation is to ensure that we can make bill payments in March. And certainly, our CFO and myself and the mayor are knee-deep in preparing our budget for this particular year. We're also waiting on our numbers from the state. And once we get that, we'll bring that before you for a vote. But this is just to continue our operation. Every town does this until their budget gets approved, and it's 1/10 of last year's budget. Thank you, sir.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Bahal?
Yes.
Councilman Wendell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Winston?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zambicki?
Yes.
And Council President McAvoy.
Yes, our consent agenda. Township Clerk, will you please read the consent agenda statement?
Resolution 25-117 through Resolution 25-126. The following items are considered routine and non-controversial items by the Township Council and will be enacted upon by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda to be discussed and voted on following the approval of the remaining items listed on the consent agenda.
Is there a need for anything to be separated here? I did want to make a comment on, if I can find my notes now. On 25 hyphen, I think it's 125, which has to do with transportation, right? And we have been receiving up-to-date headlines from Mr. Baker, Mr. Iacocca, Mr. Crisculo on the suburban transit lines. And even I have in front of me a 21-page document. It's the most recent contract approval. It's a very important piece of work that has to do with commuters who use our bus services and the residents that use the Nielsen deck as well. And so kudos to all of those who have been working weeks to get this work done. You're leaning forward, Mr. Chris as if you're nodding, you have a bad back.
I would change it to months.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
Right? All right, so can we have a motion for Resolution 25-117 through 25-126?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
Councilman Wendell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Winston?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zambicki?
Yes.
And Council President McAvoy?
Yes. And council and audience, we have 5 ordinances for introduction. Township Clerk, can you read 25-05?
An ordinance of the Township of East Brunswick, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, repealing Chapter 135, Article 2, circuses, carnivals, and similar exhibitions, and replacing same with a new Article 2 entitled Special Events.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
Second.
Move for a roll call, please, on that one.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
Councilman Wendell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Winston?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zambicki?
Yes.
And Council President McAvoy?
Yes, and Township Clerk, can you read ordinance 25-06?
A bond ordinance providing for various school capital improvements in and by the Township of East Brunswick, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, pursuant to a shared services agreement with the East Brunswick Board of Education, appropriating $11,515,789, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $10,940,000 in bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof.
May I have a motion to,
Motion to adopt.
second?
Second.
Okay.
Can we have discussion on this?
Any, I'm sorry,
Can we discuss?
yeah, we're good.
Council President, if I may, I did reach out to a number of you, actually all of you today individually, to discuss this particular bond ordinance. And in my mind, in light of the current budgetary issues at the school and the information provided to the town to justify this $11.5 million of capital appropriations that the school board wants to do, I would request a much more detailed, breakdown, yes, thank you. Breakdown of what this 11,515,000 represents. In addition, I would, now, since we're only voting tonight to have a public hearing on this, I would request that the township residents come out to speak their piece on this bond ordinance at the next meeting, which this will be heard. Should we, in addition to that, over and above, I would love to have, and I think it's appropriate that we have both Mr. Bernie Giuliana and Mr. Victor Valesky from the school board here at this meeting to provide us some clarity, answer questions, and all of that to understand why they need to spend this $11,500,000 on whatever they're doing. The breakdown that we got was a new turf field, a new PA system, a new roof, but there's no indication where these items are being appropriated, how they're being appropriated, and I would love to know from Mr. Iacocca, and I'm not putting you on the spot, you don't have to answer this tonight, but is there any way that we could bond for this money, but yet, at the end of the day, only release the funds when the projects are completed or underway? Because I know in the past, when we've appropriated funds like this to the school board, in my history, they go into their general fund, not into a capital fund, and they're not tracked. I know that there has been requests made of us or items that we have bonded for in the past that have not been completed, you know? And don't get me wrong, I understand sometimes this runs over budget, that runs over budget in a capital fund, and we can't do this. But, you know, based upon the school's already indication that last year they were over budget by what, almost $8 million or more? And this year they're already indicating that they're going to be about $4.5 million over budget. And their typical request from us is typically in the range of $4 to $6 million on an annual basis for these capital improvements. So my thought is that 11.5, when you're already over budget for the year, is something that should be rethought. And I think that having Mr. Valesky and Mr. Giuliani here at the meeting to discuss this in public, in a public forum, having the residents here is something that's necessary. We need to be proper stewards of the money that is being given and be able to understand that it's being used in the way that is being proposed to us. So I would like much more clarity on where the money is going, not just lump sums. And in addition to that, I'd like to have Mr. Giuliani and Mr. Valesky here to answer questions from the council and the residents if necessary.
I'm going to begin on, or I'll continue really with Mr. Criscuolo. We could, I guess, invite the superintendent of schools. We could invite the board secretary. We can't demand of them to come, right? Or maybe Mr.
Well,
Iacono legally, or how to,
I mean, once again, it would be an invitation to them to do this.
right?
For the detailed data behind it, certainly I would ask the municipal clerk to send them a letter tomorrow,
Right.
expeditiously, explaining to Victor and to Bernie the council's request.
Okay.
I would get it to them right away, asking for the details of each of these areas prior or as soon as physically possible, and to ask them if they would join us for the public hearing on the ordinance itself. As you know, an ordinance has 2 readings and a 20-day estoppel period. I can also ask Mr. Iacono to reach out and have a conversation with the board attorney.
Jacoby?
Yes. I can ask Anthony or a member of his firm to reach out to Mr. Jacoby and have a conversation regarding this council's concern. And I think it's important to let them know I'm not sure what you're going to do with this on first reading, the status of it. I will say that we've already submitted to the State Department of Community Affairs our supplemental debt statement. So time is of the essence to get this going, because you'll see there's several other bond ordinances after this that we'd like to lump this all together in one bond sale. We will get much better interest rates, and we'll have a much wider breadth of funding sources that will be interested in purchasing the bonds in totality. So time is of the essence. I wouldn't want to delay this because, let's face it, we all work for the taxpayer, and I'm looking to save our taxpayers some money. And when it's a lower interest rate, in essence, it saves us dollars. So that would be what I'm asking you, Council President, to request of the clerk and our esteemed attorney.
The one thing that, in conversation with Councilman Wendell, that jumped out at me, let's not forget that Kevin McAvoy is a high school history teacher. Kevin McAvoy is not an economics master. But when in the past we would bond for them $4 million, Councilman Wendell said $6 million. We would do this twice, 3 times a year. I recall the number 4 million, 4 million, 4 million. Now all of a sudden it's 11 million. So for this councilman, red flags go up. Whoa, wait a minute. What's going on here? And so asking them to come surely seems like the correct thing to do versus a conversation on the phone, because once you're here, there's more life to the conversation than a phone call. Councilman Wendell?
In addition to that, Council President, another question I'd like to ask is how much debt are they retiring this year? Are they taking on more debt than they're retiring? Because typically, and Mr. Criscuolo, you can attest to this, we typically only take on debt near what we are retiring every year. Whether it's less or a little bit more, we try to keep our debt for the municipality pretty level. And, if this is increasing their debt load, I think they need to rethink some things, especially with the financial crises that they are experiencing. And I think, based upon that, they need to be here to explain a little bit or request from us. Listen, they can do it without us. And to your point, Mr. Criscuolo, we get them a better rate. But as I said last year, we don't need to be complicit in allowing the school board to continue borrowing and borrowing and borrowing when they, for the past 2 years, are over budget. They can't, they can't make their budget. Now they're over their bank, their tax bank. So they can't increase anything from what I'm told. So
Any other council members wish to?
I think I'd like to answer one of Mr. Wendell's questions. We've traditionally did 5-year notes on them, and you are right. It was between 4 and 6 million, and every year we were retiring about the same. So I just want to make sure I don't have the exact numbers in front of me,
Right.
but he's 100% correct. So this is an increase in the,
in their request for capital from us.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Of which money's going into a general account.
From what I
Let's
believe.
understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything
Yes,
else?
that's a good way to.
I just want to add that any chance that we can get transparency for the taxpayers with this issue and these issues, that we have any kind of control, I think we should exercise it.
And just since I brought it up, I have no issue approving this.
Right.
We just need more transparency and more questions answered.
I would agree with Mr. Criscuolo that we can invite the board representatives here, not demand. So I think that would be appropriate to make the request. And I'd be happy to reach out to the board attorney to get some more background information on this bond ordinance. And I'll also confirm whether we can pass the bond ordinance, the funding mechanism, and then authorize the issuance of bonds as improvements come online. So that was your question. I'll confirm that.
Great, thank you.
So on ordinance 25-06, we already have a motion. We have a second. We have had our discussion. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
Councilman Wendell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Winston?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zimbicki?
Yes.
And Council President McAvoy?
Yes, Council.
Council President, too, I think it's important that, that the clerk and Mr. Iacocca, when contacting them and making their request, to let them know that it was passed on first reading. I couldn't say that 3 seconds ago. And so I think we're trying to do this in good faith, but we'd like some, we'd like some questions answered. And I think it's important that we get the better breakdown at what school are we replacing roofs, what turf fields, various other things, what parking lots are going to be paved, and so on. So thank you, and we'll try to keep this moving for you, and I'm sure our attorney will reach out to their attorney tomorrow and take care of this. And I think we should just have the clerk follow up with a memo from this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Criscuolo. Township Clerk, can you read ordinance 2507?
A capital ordinance appropriating $850,000 from the Sewer Utility Capital Improvement Fund to provide for various sewer utility improvements in and by the Township of East Brunswick, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey.
May I have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
Councilman Wendell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Winston?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zimbicki?
Yes.
And Council President McAvoy?
Yes. Township Clerk, can you read ordinance 25-08?
A capital ordinance appropriating $2,125,000 from the Water Utility Capital Improvement Fund to provide for various water utility improvements in and by the Township of East Brunswick, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey.
Motion approved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
Councilman Wendell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Winston?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zimbicki?
Yes.
And Council President McAvoy?
Yes, and our final ordinance, 25-09.
An ordinance amending the 2025 fee schedule for the Department of Recreation, Parks, and Community Services.
Motion approved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
Councilman Wendell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Winston?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zimbicki?
Yes.
And Council President McAvoy?
Yes. For the good of the cause. Tomorrow, 5 p.m. I'm trying to point it geographically here at the township, right outside. We'll be meeting at the gazebo, and then that's where you'll find most of us, most of the residents, for the Ramadan lighting by the municipal clock. We're inviting the general public. This is our 5th Ramadan lighting ceremony. And it's sponsored by the Interfaith Clergy Council and the Human Relations Council as well. So we'll see you tomorrow night at 5:30. And then a shout out, and I'm not a big fan of that particular cliche, sort of not my generation. You like that, Mr. Wendell, Council? Because I'm directing the comments to the gentleman behind, the guys behind the Wizard of Oz thing over there. Anthony Pagliarulo, who runs EBTV, basically, has been working real carefully to put together. He started this project with East Brunswick High School football. And today he announced on EBTV website the first 102 football games dating back to 1984. No. Really. So there's 102. So you know that, like our new Mike Tildorf.
Right.
He said he graduated in 1990. Maybe he was on a football team.
I graduated in '85. I was definitely on the football
And you can
team.
scroll down and you can see these games. And what Anthony is going to be doing is all of the videos that he has taken, he's going to be bringing them back to life. I don't know the technical terminology for how you do that, but I was really shocked and impressed to see how the beginning started with football. I guess Anthony must be a sports fan to begin with. And you may recall This Week in East Brunswick back in the 80s and the 90s. all of that eventually. It's a time-consuming project for Anthony.
Certainly.
It's going to be put on to these various locations on the web.
Council President,
Please.
if I may just add on to that. I don't know if this was kind of the instigator for this, but Stephen Hughes, a gentleman I graduated with and was a very, very successful high school football player, quarterback, died a year ago. And we mentioned him here at the council meeting and had a moment of silence for him. And Anthony at the time said to me that he was going to try to look for a game that Steve was in. So I don't know if he
It's there.
was just digging back and found one, and
gonna have
it
to-
just kind of inspired him to do all of it. But, I think Steve's wife and family would be, very, very grateful to see those games.
Right. Okay, a motion for adjournment? Whoa, I beg your pardon.
Thank you, Council President. Just very quickly, March 2nd, this coming Sunday, there will be a resource fair at our Brunswick Square Mall, and all local agencies and nonprofits will have tables there. We urge the public to come out and walk around. Earlier in the day at 11 a.m., there will be a Walk for Hunger sponsored by Feeding Middlesex County. $10 per person to enter, and 3 laps around the mall equals 1 mile. And it's a fundraiser for that. And afterwards, you can come to the fair. I will be at a table for East Brunswick Alliance for the prevention of drug and alcohol abuse. Come visit me. And Red Robin is also hosting a Dine to Donate there as well. So good things going on that day. If you've got nothing to do on Sunday, come on out.
Thank you, Councilwoman. So for adjournment, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Good night.
Good night.